Ryan Roth, the man who had an attempted assassination on President Donald Trump back in September 2024, was convicted today in a U.S. court in Florida, and he tried to stab himself with a pen in the courtroom. I want to talk about the dangers that we face in the courtroom that many don't realize and many don't pay attention to, and it can get us hurt. Let me make one point real quick. He was using a pen. It's called a flexible pen that is used for in-custody people so they cannot harm themselves with it. Like when they stab themselves, it'll bend. But I do want to say one thing about that. And I'm going to start with clearing the area for the verdict. If I'm a bailiff in the courtroom, or if it's in a U.S. court, maybe they're not called bailiffs, they might be called U.S. Marshals, U.S. Marshal Court bailiffs. Wherever, it doesn't matter, county, city, state, federal. When there's a verdict coming in, my rule of thumb was always to clear everything off from the suspect, from the defendant. They have a right to have a pad and paper during the trial to make notes, confer with their attorneys. We understand this. But more things happen when verdicts are given or when a judge is sentencing somebody than you can imagine in a courtroom. And the marshals had to swarm Ryan Roth and drag him out of the courtroom. So it disrupted the court verdict. It disrupted the judge's decision, on sentencing that day or to move it to another day. And they had to reconvene and do all that. But why go through all that? He's done taking notes now. Let's just take, whether it's flexible pen, a real pen, a pencil, whatever. Let's just take everything off the table that the defendant can use as a weapon against someone else or as a weapon to use on themselves. Now, I know out there, folks, come on, there are a lot of agencies that are using or allowing them to take notes with pencils or real pens that can be used to stab somebody. This is why we have to be very careful during the verdict. And during the verdict, we need to place a bailiff directly behind the defendant and then have a couple more off on the sides. What we want to do is our job. What we want to do is protect everyone in the courtroom. We must pay attention to detail. So that's the one thing on that issue that happened today. What else can happen in a courtroom? Well, we had one at our courthouse where an inmate was sentenced by a judge. Right as he was sentenced by a judge, he took a razor blade from his mouth area, I don't know if it was back here or under his tongue, and slit his wrist right in the courtroom. He could have just as easily turned and cut his attorney. He could have attacked the judge. He could have attacked the bailiff. Where does security start? Answer that question for me. Where does courtroom security start? I'm going to pause a second, let you think about it for a minute, and then I'm going to give you the answer. If you did not say at the jail, you're wrong, in my opinion. Because courtroom security starts at the jail. Officers wake up the inmates. They have a court list. All right, Jones, Smith, Johnson, dumb shit, come on. Come on down. You have court today. Now, I worked at a jail that did twofold pat searches. And I worked at another jail that only did one. I like the twofold. The officer assigned to the dorm and his partner or her partner, hopefully you have one with staff shortages. Sometimes not, many times not. Pat down, let's see what you're taking to court. File through, get on the wall, pat them down. Now that's one search. Here comes transportation officers. They take them out in the main hallway from the holding area there in the dorm. Up against the wall again. Search again. Let's see what you got. And do a good pat search. Not a half-assed one. Now let's see what you got in those books. No, this, you can't take all this. This is stuff you don't need in court. Yes, that's your court papers. You can take that. You know, inmates will try to take a lot of stuff to court because while they're waiting, they want to have something to read or look at. Don't let them do it, folks. The more they carry, the more chance of a hidden contraband, a hidden weapon. So that's the first defense in court security, the jail and the transport. We get them to the holding cells at the courthouse. Do we check them again? Heck, some of them drive 26 miles from the jail to the courthouse. Some of them have the courthouse right next door. Yes, lots of courthouses have a wand too. And they wand them coming into the holding cells at the courthouse. Several lines of defense, okay? Another line of defense. The inmate is called to go up to court for trial or for whatever. And before the trial starts, the inmate's up there. I'm the officer running the courtroom. I'm going to give him a little pat-down search too and check him. All right, go sit at the table with your attorneys. I'm going to check him as well. Now, I know that sometimes there's courtrooms with 100 defendants coming through that day. So we have to rely on the jail to be our first line of defense to search. We have to rely on when they come in off the bus, the wand and checking them again. Okay? Because if I'm in a courtroom that has that many defendants coming in, it's going to be hard for me without a lot of help to search every one of them. We have to be vigilant at all times. Now, you say vigilant, well, the bailiffs are just sitting there or standing there. I see it all the time on TV. What you don't know is what goes on before and after. And also, what you don't know is that an officer, when there's a trial going on, they can either stand and be quiet or sit and be quiet. But what they don't need to be doing is looking at their phone, reading, dozing off. What they should be doing is surveying the entire courtroom at all times. I have a swivel chair. Most courtrooms do for the bailiffs. I'm watching everything, checking everything. I want to watch to see what my defendant is doing. Is he looking like he's getting ready to do something? Is he looking like he's getting ready to make a move? That's what the bailiff should be doing during the entire trial. Does it get boring? Yes. But if you put your mindset to watching everything and keeping your head on a swivel, as we say, some of the boredom will go away. And watching the crowd, what's going on in the galley over in the bleachers. Is someone from the other family trying to ease up to the front and look like they may be trying to go over and hurt the defendant? Is someone from the defendant's family easing up to the front, trying to talk to them, pass notes? I love you. Hey, come here. Anything, or throw a piece of paper over. If you're on your phone, if you're reading, if you're dozing off, you're not going to see what's happening, and they love that. Now the defendant's family has time to wink at them, tell them they love them, or even throw a note, pass a note. We don't know what's in that note. Could be an escape plan for all we know. And that's the other thing. Some inmates have darted out the back door of a courtroom. So I'm the lead bailiff up front, and I have another bailiff in the back. I'm relying on that bailiff to be wide awake, alert, and watching. If that bailiff is dozing off, the inmate runs out the back door, I'm in trouble as the lead bailiff. That bailiff is in trouble. We have to write down reports on how did that happen. 2 bailiffs in a courtroom, and how did he get out that back door? There's a lot of things going on. And when we're not in trial, we're doing fingerprints. We're doing DNA testing. Yes, the bailiffs are. To send up, for example, here in Florida, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, to see if we get a hit, and to get the defendant on file with their fingerprints and DNA. Okay, we're constantly moving. We're handing papers from the attorneys to the judge, but we also have to watch as we hand that paper, don't leave your back there just talking to the judge forever. I always did the sideways move. Here, Your Honor. And that way I could still watch the courtroom. There's so many things that bailiffs do that people don't know. And it's a lot tougher job than it sounds, because when they're not in trial and you're having arraignments, you're having violation of probation hearings, you're having first appearance hearings, there's a lot of inmates in that courtroom that day. And you're on your feet all day long. You're not sitting like on TV in a trial. Trials are different. Trials are one defendant usually, and in 99% of the cases, one defendant trial, and you sit a lot of the day, yes. But that's tough to stay awake and stay alert, and that's where we lose a lot of people when they start to fall asleep. It gets us in trouble. Anyway, I just thought I would talk about what happened today a little bit and compare it to things we have to watch for. Constantly watch for contraband. Constantly watch the crowd. If they get on their phone, take the phone away. You know, some judges say, take that phone and give it to me. And you take the phone away and you hand it to the judge and they can get the phone. And this is just spectators. No, don't let people in the courtroom talk on phones. Don't let people in the courtroom sit like this with their spouse and hug them and kiss them while the court's going on. Separate them. They do it again, they're out. We'll call you in when your number's called. Get out of here. You know, don't let the courtroom get away from you. Thank you very much. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.